Hey everybody, ready for another deep dive? This one is all about Rh negative blood. We got a ton of requests for this one, and yeah, it's definitely got a lot of mystery surrounding it.
Yeah, lots of theories out there.
Right. So we've got a bunch of different sources for this one. We've got some scientific research articles, we've got some historical accounts, and we even found a little bit of folklore sprinkled in.
Oh, wow, really? Folklore, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So what we're going to try to do today is really dig into what we know about Rh negative blood. Like what's the science behind it?
Okay, yeah.
And then, of course, we've got to talk about all those kind of crazy theories about where it came from, like.
Like aliens.
Yeah, exactly. Aliens. We're going to see where the facts end and the speculation begins, I guess you could say. But first, let's start with the basics. So one of the most popular theories about Rh negative blood is this idea that it's somehow connected to, well,
To aliens, right? Yeah, aliens. Like, some people believe that the reason it's so rare in humans, it's only about 15% of the population, right? And it's seemingly absent in other primates. Some sources say that could be because it was introduced by extraterrestrial visitors a long, long time ago. So I'm curious to get your take on that.
oh, wow, that's a big one to start with.
Mm.
Um, I guess I would say it definitely makes for a good story.
Right.
But before we go too far down that rabbit hole,
Yeah, okay.
let's start with what we actually know.
Okay, sounds good.
So the Rh factor is basically just a protein,
Okay.
and you find it on the surface of red blood cells.
Mhm.
If you have it, you're Rh positive, and if you don't have it, you're Rh negative.
Mm.
Pretty simple.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's true, most primates do have the Rh factor,
Right.
but the fact that it's missing in some humans,
Yeah.
it doesn't automatically mean that aliens are involved, right?
Right.
But there are other explanations out there that could explain it.
Okay, so maybe not aliens. But what about, there's all this talk about the Basque people in Spain
Oh, yeah, the Basque people.
and how they have a really high frequency of Rh negative blood, like way higher than the global average.
Yeah, it's a pretty significant difference.
So some people think that could be evidence that, aliens visited Europe a long time ago. What do you think?
Well, the Basque people are definitely unique from a genetic standpoint. Like
Yeah.
they've got their own language, distinct cultural traditions,
Right.
and that suggests that they were pretty isolated for a long period of time. So it's possible that that isolation led to certain genetic variations, becoming more common in their population.
Makes sense.
Like, for example, they also have a high incidence of something called the Duffy-Null phenotype.
Whoa, say that 5 times fast.
Duffy-Null phenotype. It's another blood group variation, and it actually offers some protection against malaria.
Oh, wow, right.
Yeah. So it's possible that a combination of, these kind of genetic quirks and their historical isolation can
Yeah.
be why they have a higher percentage of Rh negative individuals.
Hmm. Okay, so maybe it's not aliens after all. But I gotta say, I was reading about those Native American star people legends. Have you ever heard of
Oh,
those?
yeah, the star people. It's an interesting concept, isn't it?
And it really makes you wonder, like, what if those stories are actually, kind of like distant echoes of real encounters with beings from other worlds? It's kind of a wild thought, isn't it?
It's definitely thought-provoking. I guess I would say that, legends and folklore, they often blend fact and fiction.
Mhm.
It's a way for people to explain the world around them, especially things that they don't fully understand.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So, the alien theory is fun to think about, but maybe we should move on to the science for a bit.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you.
What does science tell us about what causes Rh negative blood and where it came from?
Okay, so from a genetic standpoint, the reason people have Rh negative blood is because of a deletion in a gene called the Rhd gene. And this gene, it's responsible for producing the Rh factor protein.
Right.
So when that gene's missing or it's mutated, that's when you get Rh negative blood.
Okay, so there's a specific gene that either you have or you don't.
Exactly.
But where did this gene deletion come from in the first place? Did it just kind of pop up randomly?
Well, the most common theory is that this gene deletion, it first appeared in Africa,
Oh, okay.
and then over time, as humans migrated and they, interbred,
Right.
the Rh negative trait, it spread to other parts of the world.
Wow. So it's like a genetic breadcrumb trail leading back to, the very beginnings of humanity.
Yeah, kind of like that, yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So our sources also talk about some health implications that are linked to Rh negative blood. Like there's something about higher risk of certain autoimmune disorders, but maybe also a lower risk of certain infections. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so there's some research out there that suggests that Rh negative people, um, they might have a slightly higher risk of developing, certain autoimmune disorders like lupus, for example.
Okay, so it's not all good news then.
No, not exactly.
But there are some potential benefits too.
Right. But then on the other hand, they may also be less susceptible to certain infections like malaria.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
We talked about the Basque people earlier.
Right, right.
And they have that Duffy null phenotype, and that also helps protect against malaria.
So it's like a trade-off?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. It's kind of like you might be more vulnerable to one thing, but less vulnerable to something else.
It really makes you think about how these, small genetic variations have shaped human evolution over time.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, isn't it?
Okay, so before we get into, all the cultural stuff, I want to ask you about, like, the historical side of things. Did ancient civilizations have any idea about blood types?
That's a good question. Um, I don't think they had, the same sophisticated understanding that we do today.
Right.
But there's some evidence that they did observe that there were differences in blood.
Okay.
And they may have even like associated certain beliefs or qualities with those differences. But, historical records are often incomplete, so it's hard to say for sure.
Makes sense. All right, so let's talk about the cultural and folklore side of Rh negative blood now. What kind of stories and beliefs have sprung up around it?
Oh, you find all sorts of beliefs.
Yeah.
Some cultures believe that people with Rh negative blood have healing abilities.
Oh, wow, really?
Others believe they have psychic powers.
That's pretty wild.
And then there's some that believe it's connected to royalty or mystical lineages.
Oh, wow, like they're descended from gods or something?
Exactly. It really varies from culture to culture, but I think the common thread is that, anything that seems different or rare,
Yeah.
people tend to give it special meaning.
Right, like we're hardwired to look for explanations, especially for things that are unusual.
Exactly. And of course, we can't talk about Rh negative blood without mentioning the conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah, the internet's full of those.
Yeah. Secret societies, government cover-ups, ancient bloodlines, you name it, it's probably been linked to Rh negative blood at some point.
It's pretty wild, but I guess it's important to be, a little skeptical about these things. Just because something sounds cool or a lot of people believe it doesn't mean it's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do find it, kind of interesting that even in our, modern world where we have all this science and technology,
Yeah.
these myths and legends still have such a strong hold on people.
Right. It really shows how fascinated we are with the unknown. But even if we don't believe all those, wild theories, I still think the cultural beliefs about Rh negative blood are pretty fascinating.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's a window into how people have viewed the world throughout history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It gives us a glimpse into, human curiosity, that search for meaning, and I think that's something we can all connect with on some level.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Welcome back. Before we move on, I was thinking about something we talked about earlier,
Yeah, what's that?
the Rh negative subculture.
Oh, right. It's really fascinating how people with Rh negative blood are connecting with each other.
Yeah, like they've found this shared identity.
Yeah, and something that most people probably don't even think about. Like, it's just.
It's just your blood type, but for them, it's something more, it seems.
Yeah, it's kind of like a secret club or something. It makes you wonder, do you think it's because they feel like they're part of something, different?
I think that's definitely part of it. When you share something that's relatively rare,
Yeah.
it's natural to want to find other people who understand,
Yeah, like you said, they just get it.
Right. And with this, it's like they literally share it in their DNA.
Exactly. So I imagine these groups probably have some pretty interesting conversations. Like, do they talk about the science behind Rh negative blood?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And they talk about all the different theories, like we were discussing earlier.
The alien theories.
Yeah, the alien theories. You'll find a whole spectrum of perspectives in these communities. Some people are really into the scientific side of it.
Right.
And others, well, they're more drawn to the more, mystical explanations. It's kind of a mix of everything.
It's got to make for some pretty lively debates, I bet.
Right.
But is there ever a downside to this, like having such a strong sense of community? Like, could it lead to people feeling isolated from those who don't have Rh negative blood?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, while a sense of belonging can be really positive,
Right.
It's important to make sure it doesn't create an us versus them kind of mentality.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So how do you avoid that?
Well, I think the key is to promote inclusivity and understanding,
Yeah.
you know, both within those communities
Okay.
and in society as a whole.
So it's all about finding that balance, right? Like
Yeah.
celebrating what makes you unique while also remembering that we're all connected in some way.
Exactly.
Well said.
All right, so I want to shift gears a bit now
Sure.
and talk about something that's particularly important for anyone with Rh-negative blood who might be thinking about starting a family.
Okay.
Rh incompatibility during pregnancy. Have you ever heard of that?
Of course, yeah.
So it's always been a bit confusing to me. Could you break it down for us?
Sure, yeah. So basically, Rh incompatibility happens when an Rh negative mother is carrying an Rh positive baby.
No.
And what can happen is the mother's immune system might see the baby's Rh factor as something foreign, like an invader,
Oh, okay.
and it starts producing antibodies against it.
Yeah.
And that's called Rh sensitization.
Okay, so it's basically the mother's body trying to protect itself, right? Yeah, exactly. But the problem is, if this sensitization happens,
Yeah.
those antibodies can stick around in the mother's blood.
Oh, I see.
And then in a later pregnancy,
Uh-huh.
if the baby is Rh positive again,
Right.
those antibodies can actually cross the placenta and attack the baby's red blood cells.
Oh, wow. So it's not necessarily a problem in the first pregnancy, but
Right.
in the ones that come after.
Right.
So what happens to the baby if this happens?
Well, essentially, the baby's red blood cells get destroyed faster than the body can make new ones.
Mm-hmm.
And that can lead to anemia, jaundice, and in really severe cases, it can even cause brain damage or heart failure.
Oh gosh, that's serious.
Yeah, it can be. But the good news is it's preventable.
Oh, good. So how do they prevent it?
Well, they use something called Rh immunoglobulin. You might have heard of Rogam. That's the brand name.
Okay.
And what it does is it basically tricks the mother's immune system into thinking it's already seen the Rh factor.
Oh, so it's like giving the immune system a heads up.
Exactly. They basically expose the mother to a very small amount of Rh positive blood.
Okay.
And that prevents her body from producing those harmful antibodies.
Oh, wow. So this Rh immunoglobulin is basically like a preventative measure to make sure the pregnancy is safe.
Pretty much, yeah. It's become standard practice for Rh-negative mothers during pregnancy and after childbirth. And it's been really effective in reducing the number of cases of this hemolytic disease of the newborn.
That's really good to hear. It's amazing how much we've learned about, these complex interactions between blood types,
It is. Yeah.
especially during something as crucial as pregnancy. It brings up a thought I've had during this whole deep dive. Like,
Yeah.
we've been talking a lot about the differences, right?
Uh-huh.
How Rh negative blood is unique and how it sets people apart.
Right.
But shouldn't we be focusing more on, what connects us all as humans?
Oh, absolutely. It's
Right.
easy to get caught up in what makes us different, but
Yeah.
it's important to remember that we all share so much in common.
Right. Like, we're all part of the same species. We have the same basic genetic makeup.
Exactly.
And when you think about it, blood is really the ultimate symbol of that connection.
Yeah, it's literally the life force that flows through all of us,
Yeah.
No matter what your blood type is, what your ethnicity is, we all need blood to survive.
It's like that saying, blood is thicker than water.
That's a good one. Yeah.
It really speaks to a bond that goes beyond all the superficial differences.
And in that sense, whether your blood is Rh negative or Rh positive,
Right.
it almost doesn't matter. What matters is that shared essence of life that blood represents.
Wow, that's really beautiful. It's like a reminder that even though we have our individual variations, we're all part of this amazing tapestry of life.
Exactly. It's a perspective that I think we could all benefit from remembering.
I agree. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our Rh negative deep dive.
We have.
We talked about the Rh negative subculture. We got into the whole issue of Rh incompatibility during pregnancy.
Yeah, it's important to know about that.
And we even, talked about that deeper connection that blood represents for all of us.
Absolutely, but we're not done yet.
Right. There's still more to uncover. So we'll be back for a final part of this deep dive,
Can't wait.
where we'll explore all the latest research on Rh negative blood.
It's going to be fascinating. Stay tuned, everyone.
All right, welcome back to the final part of our Rh negative blood deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground already, the science, the mythology. It's been pretty wild.
It really has.
Yeah.
It seems like every time we answer one question about Rh negative blood, two more pop up.
Right, it's like one giant mystery wrapped in another. So for this last part, I was thinking, let's look to the future. What are some of the big unanswered questions about Rh-negative blood that scientists are still working on?
Yeah, there are still a lot of gaps in our knowledge. Like one of the big mysteries is still the exact origin of that RHD gene deletion.
Hmm.
The one that causes Rh-negative blood. We
Right.
talked about the theory that it originated in Africa.
Right. But we don't know exactly when or how it happened.
Exactly. So figuring that out, it could tell us a lot about human migration patterns.
And how we evolved over time.
Right.
It's like using our DNA as a time machine or something. Pretty cool. What else are scientists looking into?
Well, there's a lot of interest in the potential medical applications of Rh-negative blood.
Okay, like what?
Well, some scientists think that by studying Rh-negative blood, we might be able to, learn new ways to treat autoimmune diseases.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about the past then. It could actually have a real impact on the future of like healthcare.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's still early days,
Right, of course.
but it's definitely an exciting area of research. Imagine, if we could use what we learn about Rh-negative blood to develop personalized treatments for people.
That would be incredible. Okay, so we've been focusing on what makes Rh-negative blood different.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to step back for a minute and remember that we're all connected.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, as fascinating as it is to explore all these differences,
Yeah.
it's important to keep things in perspective.
Yeah.
We're all human,
Exactly. We all have the same basic building blocks of life.
and that includes our blood.
Right, exactly. RH-negative, RH-positive, AB, whatever it is.
It all serves the same purpose,
Yeah.
to keep us alive.
It's that shared life force that unites us.
I think that's a good point to end on.
Yeah, I think so too. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Rh-negative blood, I want to leave you all with a question to think about. What is it that really makes us who we are? Is it our blood, our genes, or is it something more than that?
Something deeper, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of Rh-negative blood.
It's been fun.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a topic that you requested. So keep sending us your questions and your ideas, and we'll see you next time.